Steve Richards from the CEO Nation. Welcome. Glad to have everybody here for another weekly training and coaching Q&A. So we'll have time for questions later, but today we're going to dive into and discuss the sales process, setting up a sales team and lead management, the workflows, and different types of foundations you can use. We're going to talk about pros and cons of different ways to set that up and kind of how those flow during different stages of your business. So when you're a solopreneur versus you have your first few people versus having multiple salespeople, one salesperson versus multiple salespeople. So let me see here. We've got some panelists today. Bring them on right now. What's going on, Parker? You there? You're muted, buddy.
Oh, sorry. There you go. What's up? Had to figure this link thing out.
You having a rough day?
You caught me on the couch after my mid-afternoon snack. I'm taking my my daily nap.
Hilarious.
I'm just kidding.
So
I wish I could take a daily nap.
So is Casey gonna get on?
She is maybe in her car right now. I know she was on the phone on the link when you were still working out the connectivity issues. So she might be listening in.
That's cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure if we need to wait for her. But guys, listen, this will be good today. We're going to talk about, like I said, different setups for sales teams and process workflows. And so Parker and his wife Casey have a 7-figure real estate wholesaling business, and they work out of a couple different markets in the Southeast. And they've been doing this for years now. They do it at a high level. And we're in a mastermind together, and they posed a question regarding the best way, how to have lead flow set up and who qualifies leads, how quickly do you get them to your salespeople. And so we're going to talk through that today. Parker, I'm going to wrap that in a little bit more of a discussion, maybe about some of the higher level, the finer details of like different team setups or whatever. But I do want to answer the question for you guys through this. We'll probably try to keep it to like a half hour here or so. And then guys and gals that are on, if you guys have questions and you want to run through those today, whether it's about sales teams or whatever, we'll make time for Q&A at the end. If you're watching this on Facebook after the fact, you can log into these Zooms in real time at 3:30 Eastern on Mondays. There's a link somewhere in the Facebook group. You'll find it. And I think other than that, Bobby, if you can drop a chat in, if you guys need anything from us, whether checking into our podcast, our KPI training we have, you guys want to discuss coaching or any of the trainings, anything we have is all at the ceonation.com/links. So the ceonation.com/links. Bobby just dropped that in to the chat, so feel free to go grab that. And with that, let's get rolling, Parker. So I see you made your way to the command center.
We're here.
All right, so chat questions in, guys, along the way. I see Randy Craven, smart Alec, 10 minutes late start. You're right, Randy. Technical difficulties. But if you guys have questions along the way, throw them in. I want to make sure this is interactive and engaging. But so Parker, let's just real quick, can you just give a couple minute setup of how you guys are currently doing things and what you were thinking about doing?
Yeah, so we have always had a lead management position where it's kind of set up as the marketing goes out. The calls come in, the web forms come in, just whatever inbound lead comes in, and it goes into a leads app in Podio. And the lead manager is one per market. So initially first in Atlanta, or first in Charleston, South Carolina, then Atlanta. So we hired one in each. We're all virtual, so I guess it really doesn't matter, but we go to our markets and visit in Charleston once a quarter and stuff like that. And we're not too far from Atlanta. We do things activity-wise with the team every now and then. So we have a local. So for the point of your question is, we have a lead manager that takes all that stuff, and their main goal is just to generate appointments out of all the stuff that comes in. As how many people can they contact back and set an appointment for the sales team? And we've got 2 sales guys per market, and so they pretty much have a Google Calendar, and lead manager just is supposed to fill them up with appointments, during set times of the week. Now they also work cold leads, so we have this big pot of leads called rejected all offers. That's every lead that got an offer and they said no, price is too high or too low or all that stuff. The biggest bucket in our business is people that didn't work out. So they go through those. We've got an automated follow-up system that sends like a text blast every other month and a voicemail drop kind of trickled in there for, I think it's like 1,000-day campaign. So 3 years or so. And so all of the rebound data, calling back from the caller ID, from the voicemail drop, or texting back the text message, all of that goes to the lead manager. And so they're just supposed to say, oh, all right, well, Johnny Acquisitions was working this list, so let me tag Johnny. Hey, Johnny, this seller's ready to, talk numbers again now. Life event happened and they're ready to go. And then the third thing that the lead manager does is all the people we can't get a hold of, the people that are not interested, the people that we call them no contact maids. We've reached out, call, text, email for 5 business days in a row, just can't get them back on the phone. Maybe they were a web form submission, like a PPC lead, and they just kind of ghost us. They never, that happens a lot. They're trying to like dig up stuff and set appointments. Those are the 3 main pillars to the job of a lead manager. And that's been like the foundation of kind of when the lead enters our business initially. And it's worked, but it's just really never worked well. They've been W-2 employees. They're paid hourly. It's $15 an hour to $19 an hour we've paid, plus some bonuses here and there. I mean, so we've tried appointment bonuses, like $5 per appointment. We've done bonuses relating to the deal closing on the back end after they get the review, because they wrap around and get the final review at the end, and stuff. And it's clunky. And I was talking with Brett Tanner, and he said the same thing. He's like, man, we call them ISAs, inside sales agent. And he's like, I don't think you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody that spent more money, than me trying to make that model work. And I just couldn't. And so now we're in the process. And that's why I wanted to get on here with Steve and hear his thoughts and anybody else's, of like, I mean, we're talking about getting rid of our lead managers. One's been with us for like 3.5 years. The other one, maybe about 8 months or so, and just cutting that out completely. And now my sales guys that have been used to getting, spoon fed their leads and, teed up appointments on a silver platter. Now I'm just going to be like, hey guys, you used to start in this app. Now you start in this app, set your own appointments, go crazy. So there's going to be a lot of little things that we've got to make sure don't fall through the cracks, and just wanted to talk with anybody that has advice on that.
Okay. So hopefully that made sense to everybody. So basically, when you said ISA, you're talking inside sales rep, and that's what you were saying Brett was calling the lead manager. Yeah.
Correct.
We actually delineate between the two. It's funny how everybody does things a little differently, but we have a lead manager that's really data entry driven, and they don't actually talk to anybody ever. Every once in a while they're texting, like on hangups. They're like, hey, sorry, missed your call. Was this about a specific house? They're doing some outbound texting like that, but that's neither here nor there for this conversation, other than I will say it's nice that they do all the data entry. No matter what form a lead comes in, they'll put it into the system and they'll track the metric that lead came and what channel it came from and the day it came in and all that, and who it got assigned to and stuff like that.
So who's taking inbound direct mail calls?
So that's going to our inside sales. So our ISA, our inside sales, I believe it's someone who's a little bit hybridish, who's maybe a step above, who has a little bit of ability to connect. It might mean you got to pay a little more per hour, or you got to put a better spiff in. But I think you're on the right path. That one of the biggest things that we see with having an inside salesperson is that I don't need them to negotiate. In fact, I don't want them to negotiate. They need to ask, and people on here, most people on here have real estate businesses. A couple of you guys don't. And I know a lot of people will watch this in the Facebook group. They don't have real estate. So I'm going to try to make this kind of generic, but we're going to talk about real estate business today. From a standpoint of talking to a seller about price, Parker, it's always important in that initial upfront to ask what price they're wanting and why, but you never want to filter out a price. And so one problem, I'm sure you work with your sales reps like this, but it is in our perspective, as soon as in the real estate wholesaling business, especially, or just the real estate acquisition business, as soon as you make it about price, the conversation's gotten to the end. Mm-hmm. It's going to work or it's not. Like, you're kind of done building rapport and trust and all that kind of stuff. And so we avoid that as long as possible until we've personally connected and related and really understand their non-financial reason for selling. And it's the non-money thing. It's like, hey, I'm trying to get down to this. I got some land on a lake and I'm trying to retire, or, hey, I got to go take care of my sick family, all that part. So I don't know where that's happening yet, but just to take a step back, and you guys might be beyond this, Parker, but if you're watching this and you don't know what we're talking about building rapport so you can gain trust. And there's a couple of things that come along with this. So if you have really good inside sales or lead managers at building rapport, the system in collecting information, Parker, when you said the word clunky, that is one issue where they talk, especially if you're having like an outside vendor generate the initial lead, and then your lead manager works them and does a really good job of connecting, and then they dump them off to somebody else. And then that person jumps in to connect. And sometimes your leads might feel like, geez, how many people do I have to talk to to get a freaking offer on my house?
Yeah.
So were you going to say something?
No, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. So there's a dance there where, like, especially when acquisition picks up with it. And when this is one of the downsides, guys, if you're using qualifiers or inside sales, is your sales rep can sometimes either make it feel very redundant because they just start interviewing the person again. The person's like, I've already talked to somebody about this, or they go straight into price, in which case they've got no trust and rapport. And right now they're going about price, and that doesn't work very well in today's market when you really need to be connected. And so what we found is there's an orchestration that it's not super hard. It's kind of simple, but not easy to put in play, where your upfront person, lead manager, inside sales, whatever you want to call it, they can begin the rapport process, but they've got to be very careful not to go too far with it. But while they're building rapport, they're doing it by edifying the next man in line or next woman in line, the acquisition person. So instead of just talking about how we're going to help and we're great, and your situation is perfect for us to fit, and I'm connecting you in this way, they have to be good at edifying the next level in the business, which is like, look, Parker, if you're my acquisitions guy who's in that market, or it's you and Casey, there's two people you said per market. So when that person is connecting to them, they need to be saying, look, you're going to love Parker or Casey. I'm not sure which one's going to be in your neighborhood when I set this appointment here, but yeah, your situation is such that it's a good fit for us. And let me ask you this. And then, oh, cool. Listen, that is a perfect, Parker actually just did one of those the other day. And right. And so they're just building up, and like, you're going to love them. And then they're going to call and get this information. Here's what's going to happen next. They're going to call, they're going to verify some of this, but they're the ones that are going to make the offer. And if someone's going to come look at the house, they're going to do that. And so that's one point I wanted to make, that I know you guys are probably beyond that, Parker, but if you decide to keep the ISA role or lead manager, and maybe what I was going to propose as an option for you guys to consider is upgrading that to someone who's a little bit more, maybe you have to spend a little more, kick a little bit more in the back end, but someone who can take it a little further to not just set up an appointment, but also look at how you're qualifying. Right? Like, what's the motivation and what constitutes a qualification? And so what we found is we've really backed off of motivation regarding what pricing they're asking and things like that. Ours is more about, do they have equity? Do they have a situation where they are going to sell? Like, it's legitimately probably going to happen because of the situation they're in.
Yeah. Our lead managers we call them lead managers versus inside sales agents, because they're not doing any sales. Like you said, they're not qualifying. If they're basically taking anybody, even if the house is listed, if they call in and they say the house is listed, we're trying to say like, hey, it might be in the best place right now that it's on MLS, but, let us at least make you an offer. I can set you an appointment. One of our sales guys will chat with you, and I got all the information, so I'll forward it over to him. So he's, privy to the info and you don't have to repeat yourself, kind of thing. But they're not like, they're just matchmaking. Even the rejected all offer drip campaign stuff, something comes up and the guy's like, hey, I can't find my offer. Can you resend it to me? They'll resend it to them, or they'll tag the salesperson and say, hey, this guy, can't remember what we offered him. Can you give him a call and, try and tee something back up here? And so it's not really anything that necessarily has to be done by someone else. And like you said, like what's the whole goal of this business? This particular business is to make offers to sellers, as many as possible, as quickly as possible, to when they first come in. So why hire somebody to put in the middle of those two things? Like why hire somebody and pay somebody to literally be between me and that goal? It's putting another person in between the ball and the goalpost. Well, my reasoning was because of all the noise that sending hundreds of thousands of postcards, creates, all the noise from cold calling and PPC and radio ads and texting and ringless voicemail and it's just like, it gets to be a lot. And I was like, acquisitions guys, they're running appointments, they're following up on their hot bucket of leads. That's all they want to focus on, is like the hot stuff. But that's because I've set it up like that. That's not what everybody's business is like. So I was thinking, maybe my current acquisitions guys can't handle all of that combined. And if that's the case, then I need more salespeople. And it's like, hey, do as much as you can, set your own appointments, fill your plate, run the rest like you normally do. And once you're capped out, that's all you can do. If you want to get, better and better at conversion, and we can work together on how you can, even down to like time blocking, do more in less time. And, I can help you with those things. But if I truly have leftover and leads that aren't getting touched, then I just need to hire more salespeople.
Yeah. So you got to a good point there. So here's an interesting trade-off is you hit the nail on the head. It's a matter of resources and manpower and where you want to build it up at. Right. And so
yes.
I subscribe to the concept that unless you're ready to build a pretty finely tuned, well-oiled recruiting and sales management, business team with inside of your company, it's harder just to bring more salespeople on. So the way that I look at it, for the size of a company that's maybe a couple $1 million or less, depending on what size ticket you guys are selling, is there is a good component for inside sales to do a few different things. And you kind of already mentioned it, Parker, but one of those is qualify the people coming in so that your less salespeople that you have, which are actually, in my opinion, harder to get and get trained and get ready and get going, would be to make sure they're spending the majority of their time working on closable deals, closable leads, instead of filtering and sorting.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the spare time, the inside salesperson also manages more actively the follow-up. So a good salesperson is going to be really hard to do prospecting, selling, and follow-up, right? Because all three of those things need to occur. It sounds like you've got some good automation stuff there to hit people for 3 years. But it's hard because what happens in the lead bank is you spend more time prospecting. So now the noise you're talking about is real. It's response. It's like now you're talking to take off lists and you're talking to like, how'd you get my number? right? Because it's hard to filter that. And you could put something on your voicemail that says, hey, thanks for calling in to what Barrington Acquisitions or whatever your company is. Listen, if click 1 to talk to an acquisition person now about some, getting an offer on your house, click 2 to hear more about what we do, or click 3 if you want to remove yourself from our mailing list. So you could filter some noise out, but what we found is we start to get more hangups and
Yeah.
we don't have personal touch there. So we lose a little bit, but you can still follow up with those people in different fashion. But anyway, the point is when you put your salesperson into that mode to do the prospecting and the qualifying, you are taking part of their capacity away, and you want them to be making offers to leads, right? So then you get left with, if we remove that buffer in your business, that middle person, then you also don't have them as manpower to actually work on the follow-up right. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, because the guys that are running the biggest operations in our business that you and I both know are doing more of that model where their sales reps have to spend a certain amount of hours a day banging cold calling and banging text messaging and finding their own leads and then setting up. All of those guys, though, because I've talked to all of them at great length and detail, they all have more guys doing less deals. Many of those guys have reps on their team that are only getting 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 closings a month.
I'd say that's pretty good. Would you not say that's pretty good?
Closings in a month, having 1 or 2 for a game?
Like 2. Like three closings, 3 or 4 closings a month for one guy. I'd say that's, at least for my guys, that's pretty good. I think a really good year is like 40 deals in a year. So that's 3 and decimal point per month. I don't know. I just can't. I've never had a guy do more than that.
Yeah, I think a good salesperson, because if you pour more into them, I think in this wholesaling business, I think that would probably be where they're like keepable, where they're doing 35, 40 deals, like keepable, not high end.
I think the business that you're describing, of the people that you're talking about, the number that I heard recently was more like, like 15 to 20 deals a year, which is like part-time income. And those people don't stick around because they're not getting paid enough. So there's more turnover. And that's the other noise I didn't want to create.
Well, that's the problem, is all those guys that are running a shop like that have a recruiter, or they spend a lot of time recruiting. And the second thing is, the blended average, you're right, does take it way down, because you have some guys that never make it. So in this model, if anyone watching this is thinking of this, what typically happens when you work that model is you bring someone in with less qualification in sales. Like you're less worried about getting an A player, and you're thinking, does this person somewhat fit? And then you throw them immediately at old leads and archive leads, and you let them, they have to go find themselves a couple of deals before you assign new leads to them. That's what most guys are doing. And they say, look, this guy's not going to cost me a lot. And they're throwing more warm body, not that bad, but like there's less filtering to this being a key employee of my business. And I get them in and I put them through basic training. And then you're not going to give them a ton of new leads. You're going to let them work old leads until they can get a couple of deals, or they're going to go on appointments with a senior person. And when they get an appointment, they're going to have to take another person with them, and maybe they split that deal, or there's some way where they've got to basically get through an initial, I hate to call it a trial period, because you and I have talked about this, Parker. When you tell someone they're on a trial period, you might as well tell them, like, I don't really believe in you yet, but that's kind of what it is. So I'm not trying to sway either way in this, but I want to run through a couple pros and cons just to sum it up. So not having an inside salesperson means you do put some noise in the form of filtering through responses. And if anyone's in the real estate business, really any business, but when leads come in, they're not leads, they're responses. And so if you don't have a way to filter that, you're just going to deal with some of that noise, which every minute you spend doing that not only takes you away from working through the good leads, but it also just kind of brings your psyche down a little bit. So I do feel the way you feel, is that when a sales guy, gosh, we clean them up, filter them, pre-qualify them, got all the information. It's all in the CRM. And then our guys are even so like when they're ready to do an offer, they just tell our inside transaction coordinator, he does all the paperwork. They don't even do contracts themselves. So like we've greased the skids down to where it's like, look, you'll get qualified leads every week and all the data is already in the system about who they are, why they're selling. And if it's deemed a hot property by the inside sales, meaning like they're really motivated and or we like this property a lot, when we notified that got assigned to them, we're also notifying our transaction coordinator who also does comping. Like he would have already done, he's an internal evaluator. So our transaction person schedules closings, but also helps with some of the comps, not all of them, but some of them. And then also does paperwork.
Man, your acquisitions guys have it easy.
Yeah. But we're trying to get them to be, that's why I feel like they can close more deals. So if I free that stuff up and they can close one more deal a month, 12 deals in a year, right? And I look at that, I can easily afford to have more infrastructure in the transaction coordinating. And so it's all a trade-off is my point. So it has to fit your personality, your business style, and it should come down to dollars and cents where it's like, look, here's what you guys have to really focus on. How much time and effort does it, because like I said, it all comes down to manpower and where you want to put the effort in building that up. So do you want to build up a couple different, instead of a mountain somewhere, do you want a little hill you got to build in of people in inside sales and work them so they can filter a little bit better and then build up a little bit, a moderate sized sales team? Or do you want to cut this out, build up a bigger sales team, put more effort into this, right? And then you need more people to do less deals. And so you just need to paper this thing out on a whiteboard and then kind of make some assumptions. And here's the reality. Either one of these is probably okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you're trying to go ultra big in your business, so it depends on your personality, your resources, and what you're good at. If you're good at acquiring talent and training them and managing them, you could go to this you could go to this model where you're running salespeople in and out. I know that it's really hard when you're trying to get 2, 3, 4 salespeople to get over that hump to have 6 or 8 or 10. There's a lot of turnover to figure it out. Many guys hire a recruiter if they're going to always be hiring. That's most people I know that have a recruiter in place probably have between 6 and 8 at a minimum, or 10 to 15 reps.
I really like, we've got 4 guys, 2 in each market. And I really like that size. I mean, I don't want to be the 8, plus acquisitions team. I really don't want that. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how to get our lead managers just suck. I'm tired of having them. They're like, they just drop the ball on so much stuff. Every time I go in and do an audit, there's stuff that's not where it should be. They're messing up the lead location. It wasn't a texting lead. It was a cold call lead. You go through and you're like, you made 16 calls today, inbound and outbound. Like, what were you doing all day? Like, that's a question Casey and I ask ourselves about them on a regular basis. We're paying $6,000 a month, over maybe closer to like $7,000 a month in, just in pay and salaries, hourly pay to these people. Like, I mean, I ask myself that too many times to be spending that much money on these people. So I'm like, what's the better way? I don't want to go hire 4 more acquisitions people and double it again, but I want a better way than the lead managers. So I've said, hey, does it make sense to maybe get 1 inside sales agent and pay them $30 an hour, because a $30 an hour employee is of a different caliber usually than a $15 an hour person. So would that be too much noise for one person to handle versus just giving it all to the sales guys, not have to pay any hourly money to somebody and just have them split it up 4 ways?
So just to put what you just said in perspective, because you're not effectively managing your lead managers, which is kind of what it comes down to, whether that's fire them or train them better or whatever, you're thinking about punishing your sales guys and giving them less hours in the week to make offers. and try
I
to get.
think they would do. I think they would do more deals if they had management over the leads. I actually had one of my sales guys tell me that he was going to hire his own assistant to do some other stuff for him, but that he was going to hire his own assistant to work cold leads and tee him up for appointments because he felt like our lead manager didn't do a good enough job of it.
Well, that's back to what I just said. I mean, that's definitely, it sounds like we've uncovered a bigger issue. Maybe you should still have the leads go to them. And I would argue that guy's probably never had to prospect, like filter, qualify responses for him to say, if he's willing to hire his own person, you got to keep her probably, right? But most people aren't going to be able to do that or willing to do that. And I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, let me climb into CallRail and call hangups back and get told and get asked where you got my number and get told I'm going to call the attorney general. And then who clicks the button? What do you do with the takeoff list? Like, who sends that to the VA, or how do they do it? Do they log? Like, what do you,
So
right?
we
Like,
should have we've got statuses in the leads app. And so if somebody said, take me off your list, and they really wanted to, we could just hit the button and then assign, that would create a task automatically. And we would hire a VA to do stuff like that. Like the case
Okay.
we were talking about this, like all the suppress phone, remove from mailing list. That would be as simple as clicking a status button on the app, and then it would create a running list of tasks for the VA to go back during her hours and log into Roar and go into our list and add it to do not mail and stuff like that. So there's a lot of those mundane stuff that a VA can do that we don't have to put on. We can make it very easy for the acquisitions person to make that change on the fly, move on to the next thing, and have the more tedious part of that process, i.e. adding it to a sheet, logging into Roar and suppressing phone. That all can be done by a VA.
Okay.
And there's other things too that I haven't, little stuff like if a person misses an appointment, then we have a no-show button. So they have a 3:00 appointment, lead management set them up. They call at 3, they don't pick up, they text, they call back 15 minutes later, leave another voicemail, try again at the end of the day, complete no-show. They hit the no-show button. It tees tasks up for over the next 4 days for lead management to go get them back on the phone and put another appointment in the acquisitions calendar, tee it back up for them. So there's stuff like that. And then the RAO, responses that go to lead management that I'm going to have to figure out where that goes. But I know that there's another way to do this, accomplish what I'm doing that's less, maybe not less messy and better conversion is what I'm going for.
Yeah. And all that stuff you just said is good because it's good that you're hearing yourself say it out loud, because now you're adding all this new, like, I got to rework things in my business, and that could all be good, but it's good that you're thinking through it, because many people think I'm going to make this change and they don't realize the ripple effect of what that does in your business. And then it creates like a friction in the business instead of momentum. Every time you make a change in the structure in your business, you are going to slow down a little bit. I mean, it's like running in sand for a little bit every time and you got little quirks that come up, and if it's all for the greater good, that's great. I don't know if I were you, if I'd make a wholesale change over, no pun intended, like a big major change over to this is what we're going to do, where we switch, get rid of the inside sales or lead managers, give everything. I'd probably run some kind of test if you're going to make a change like this, especially since your guys' business is operating at a successful level. You might find that if it doesn't work, you gotta put a lot of things back in play. Plus, when you're kind of running a test and say, hey, especially this guy's willing to do it, hey, let's try this for a little while. It might be a little fool's gold if the guy you try it with is also willing to pay his own administrative assistant on the side. And if you run it with someone else who isn't willing to do that, they just get completely bogged down.
Yeah.
But I think you just need to maybe start by paying attention to how many, like really leaning into your lead managers and say, hey guys, we're thinking about growing the team and making changes. I need to track hours, how many, with your lead managers, how many responses are you guys dealing with a day to get a certain amount of leads? How many hours is that taking? They're already turning their hours in, but really understanding that might open the window for you to manage them a little better and say, look, guys, I mean, first of all, as business owners, anytime that that a meeting happens and when it's over and you guys talk and say, dude, are you kidding me? Like, what are they doing? Like every time you're talking about somebody behind closed doors, that's usually a sign that that conversation needs to be had directly with that person. So you would say something like, hey, listen, we're struggling with some of the back end results here because we've seen this happen. We've seen this happen. Not, we're going to beat you up, you got to fix it, but it's like, hey, let's get to the bottom of this. And if you guys just don't have the patience to push through that, I would challenge if you have the patience to run a bigger sales team too, right? Like to deal with more reps.
So
But
we've
is
had
that part of it, do you think?
conversation so many times. It's just, maybe I'm a bad manager, and Casey does a lot of managing the lead managers too, and she does a good job of them. They've got their own KPI sheets and they're tracking inbound calls, outbound calls, appointments set, minutes, talk time minutes on the phone per week. And we'll just have that conversation that you just said. We've had it, with one person that's been with us for 3 years, probably half a dozen times.
What happens?
It gets good for a little bit and then it goes back to what it was.
That's managing people.
I should have gotten rid of her already and gotten somebody else, but
potentially
it's been good enough to where it's worked. She gets the system. I hate hiring and bringing in new people. So it's like I would rather keep her because she knows the system. She knows all the nuances and she's not great on the phone, but she gets the job done for the most part. And we don't have to yell at her much. That's a bad way of saying it, but we very rarely get on to her. It's just whenever I go in, it's like, it could be done so much better. Like Casey could do both of their jobs better than one of them could just manage one market. But that's what I'm saying. Like, should I go find somebody at $30 an hour and find a higher caliber, employee and pay them to do the same thing? Or
it's a math equation, right? Like kind of, it's an art and a science. But Randy Craven, actually, he just had a good comment. He was like, sounds like you need to hire and fire as quickly as possible until you find someone that follows orders. Also, can his managers be put on a commission or partial commission? I think he mentioned that he's tried that. So I think the bonuses and the talk of like firing them up in 3 years, half a dozen, so twice a year, basically about every 6 months, you've had to have a talk with them. I think there's a way to maybe turn that into a quarterly, like remotivating, re-inspiring, right? And just make that, instead of like waiting for it to happen and getting frustrated, why don't you build it in a little more frequently where it's like, look, let's reinforce what we need out of this.
Here's my short-minded comment.
Okay.
I don't like this job anymore. I don't want this position. I don't think I want this position in my company anymore.
The lead manager.
I don't like managing it. Casey doesn't like managing it. Maybe I could hire someone to manage it, but that seems like more people than is necessary. I feel like when you said, what if you really bog your guys down? I think my guys make money and ride the gravy train as far as how much effort they put in. I really don't think it would bog them down to go in there and have some 15-minute conversations and tee some appointments up for themselves. And sometimes combine the lead call into the acquisitions call and knock it all out at the same time and shoot an offer to them and get the contract to them twice as fast as the next guy is. I think they do more deals, and I don't think it would really hinder. I mean, they're literally sitting there waiting for appointments. Like, I think we had one guy had 4 appointments last week. And he doesn't just go in there and stir up old stuff. If that's the mentality from the get-go, not to be handed something, but to go in there and get it for yourself. I know I'm going to get some pushback for the people that have been with me for a while. But my new guy I just brought on, he was like, dude, I was like, just FYI, I might be moving in this direction. So, when I was saying, when the lead manager was out the other day, to go in there and, set yourself up, keep thinking that might be something we're moving towards. And he's like, I think that's a great idea. I don't like just sitting here waiting on my stuff. I wanted to go in there and, do it. I just feel like that's the mindset that every salesperson should have. And I've kind of bred lazy acquisitions agents.
Are you okay with changing over your acquisitions? So,
From what?
So, I mean, where your head's going is, like I said, either model is actually cool. And I think the most like, look, big, huge businesses do both. Like they have different setups. And so I'm talking, 10, 15, $20 million business, like, then getting 50, $100 million. But those, a lot of times those are structured so differently. So when we're talking like under 5 million, you can skin the cat 100 different ways. And it's really about what you like to do and how you like to do. And if you and Casey are kind of done with this, I guess all I was saying is just really know what you're going into is like, we got to let some people go that have been with us. I got to rework how the administrative part works in the business. I got to bring on a VA to handle that. And I might take a big step back, pissing off half of my team and have to replace them. And so in 6 months from now, though, are you guys in a position to take some steps back while you rework all this? And maybe you have to help and push harder to keep revenue up. But in 6 months from now, you could look up and say, look, we've hired 2 or 3 new reps. Maybe we've hired 4 or 5 more because we need more of them. But now all we do is focus on just bringing them in and training them, bringing them in and training them, bringing them in and training them. Right? We're just doing that, and then when they're in, they just have a system. They work or they don't, and I don't mess with any of this other stuff anymore. By the way, like our cold calling vendor that you and I both know that we use out of our mastermind. I mean, like there's leads like that come in, and they don't even need to go to inside sales.
Close needed.
Yeah, because there are ways to generate leads where they've already been talked to enough that it can go to a person, right? So half of our leads coming in are ready to go straight to acquisitions anyway. Really, what we needed
with that preloaded info. Yeah, like a lot
so
of times those leads coming in, all the lead manager's doing is calling them back and setting an appointment just to hang up and wait for somebody else to call them back.
Yeah, those are clunky. So
go ahead. You're good.
I was gonna say those are clunky to run through a multi-step process. You're right. So my point is, if you're ready to bring on more people, maybe lose someone, bring someone in sales, fire some people, right? Those things, that list I was going through, like change your administrative process, bring on a VA. That's all shit you got to do. And then on top of that, maybe you can modify your marketing systems a little bit to work with a more vendor-based, or add a couple more steps in the forms on your web stuff or whatever it is. There's probably a way to modify your marketing a little bit too. I guess the point is, I'm just getting you to think the trade-off. The trade-off is I got to do all that stuff, but you will have less moving parts. Yeah. You just have a different breed of salesperson probably.
And I think I'm okay with that. I'd rather have that problem than have I feel like I've got 3 cogs moving together: lead management, acquisitions, dispositions. And I'd rather just have 2 than deal with 3, even if 2 gives me some problems too. Like I know I'm gonna have that's part of running a business, owning a business is dealing with problems. So I'm cool with that. I think I like these problems better. I think it's all about what you want, right? And I don't want a $10 million wholesale business. I'm cool with the 2.5 is kind of the range, the gross that I want to hit. I want to keep that kind of 45% net margin, net to gross margin. And I don't want to have a ton of employees. I mean, I think we'll do 1.6 or 1.5 or something about that this year. We literally just went from 2 to 4 sales guys. So, I mean, I think I could do, close to 2 with 4. I think if maybe just added 1 in Atlanta and left it 2 in Charleston, smaller market, and had 5 instead of doubling both, I think that would get me to 2+. But I don't know. Really just wanted to get on here and talk it through with you out loud.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it helped at all, but
it did. Yeah, no, it did. It's there was a couple things that I hadn't have thought about that I still think this direction. It wasn't a change in directions type conversation, but there were some things, some boxes that I hadn't checked that you brought up. And the VA thing, it's like, what are all the changes what are all the things that I'm not thinking about that lead management's doing now that I really do want to keep off of acquisitions? and how do I make that stuff super easy and quick for them to do, to where we're still keeping things organized, and it's not just like, oh, that's not worth my time, next, but it's staying active, and it just gets real messy. How do we keep it organized but have them focus on actual conversion for good leads?
Yeah, and I think maybe if this is a takeaway for you, but I think maybe there's this 30-day window of like, look, guys, for June, we really want to streamline things, and we're setting up. We just brought this other guy on. We just hired a sales guy. We're looking at streamlining some things. So for the month of June, we're going to have you talk to your lead managers. I need you to track some of these things and some of those things, right? And maybe you have like, look, maybe my mind gets changed during June, or maybe I'm open-minded to whatever's going to happen. But what I'm going to do is spend this month like having them document everything and write things down and track time and instead of just cold turkey. I guess what I'm saying is I would look at a phased approach. This is a project in your business that you have to work on it and in it. But maybe during that time, you also start to pilot one or two of your lead sources directly to your guys. Like slide a little bit off of the lead manager's plate and let them deal with the response, like going straight to a couple guys. Yeah. To let them get a taste of it during this month, while you're also putting your finger down on lead managers a little more to really hold them accountable. And maybe some stuff changes but you really are open-minded. But at the end of the month, it might be like, look, guys, lead managers, we really had you guys work hard. And what we learned was we're going to eliminate these positions. Here's an extra, here's a month's pay, or, whatever, you do something nice for them. So maybe you give them a little bit of a softer landing or whatever. Yeah. But this is the way it's going to be. And maybe you got some feedback from your guys that it is going to be okay. And then when you're done, you also have a more detailed list of what all is getting done by those people and how much time it takes and what they're doing. Maybe you guys take some time to like to jump in with them on Zoom during their day to day a little more often, and screen record it while you're doing it. Yeah. So you have those as trainings for when you have to train your sales guys now on how to handle prospecting, because they got to learn how to like log into the other system and whatever.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So anyway, that process might be a way for you to gather information. And like, I just hate seeing business owners make a change, because I've done it so many times too, but then like, it doesn't always work the way you thought. And this might be what you need to feel either really good and be like, yep, everything we learned this month is my acquisition guys are totally cool with prospecting. I'm really dialed in on what they were doing. I'm very comfortable getting rid of them now. Like I'm in a better space. And so maybe that project, and I'm not so much talking to you, Parker, you and Casey you guys are on top of your stuff, and I know you're dialed in. So maybe there's something to help you, but I'm kind of talking to the greater good of people watching this later on, because I think it's really easy in business when we have something not working to just assume we're going to design this new way to do it, and we just change. And we don't, and that's why the joke is, you've heard Kent say a lot. I learned it from him, but now I look back on it, I'm like, oh, I do it too. But as business owners, as soon as something's working, we quit doing it. It's like, it's cliche, but I really mean, as soon as it's working, it's like, let's do more of this. And then we oversaturate it and we break it. Or it's working here, so it must work over here too. Right? Or we just quit doing it altogether. It's so funny, but it's what happens. And your system is working. I mean, you guys have a 7-figure business for multiple years. Like, it is working. And so you just need to make sure that your change is like you stair step into it instead of just making a quick changeover. But I think it's been a good conversation. And I think the ultimate summary of this, because we're at an hour, actually, if you want to bounce, you can, Parker. I'll do some Q&A for a minute. But I think the summary of this is, in sales, there is lead management and there's sales conversion, and you can set it up any way you want. You can have someone take the gamut of, like, a lead comes in. I mean, quite frankly, guys, you could actually put lead gen on the salesperson's plate too, and just buy a list and make them cold call. So you're talking about lead management, which is like you're generating leads in for them for the most part, and they got to filter and sift the leads, responses to find leads, and then work the leads in sales. Well, you could go one step even further over here and do lead generation, which could be like, look, call property managers, call real estate agents, drive for dollars, run on the dialer. Like, you could make them generate leads, which is just straight up cold prospecting to get a response. Then they filter the prospects to find the lead. So those are 3 stages, right? And so if someone's thinking of like, what do I do in my business? Just keep, those are 3 different things. And sometimes someone who's really good at selling isn't maybe really good at prospecting. You can make someone do the whole gamut. And Parker, I feel the same way you do sometimes. I'm like, gosh, man, you should close 50% of your offers should be contracts, because like we're literally teeing you up, right? One thing you do differently that we don't do is we don't book appointments very often. We'll book general times that work and when are good callback times. And we used to do that. And we had a lot of like no shows or reschedules. And so then we went to like, we'll go ahead and book it. And then the person always has to call behind and they may reschedule if it doesn't work. We went away from that, partially heavily during the pandemic. It was just easier to do that. But I just wanted to make that, no matter what you do, again, it wasn't just so much for you, Parker, but if you guys watching this are thinking, how do I want to build this out? Not only did I have those 3 sections I want you to be in tune with, but there is no set it and forget it. It'd be really hard, Parker, for you guys to say, we want a $2.5 million business and to hit 2.5 million and just stick to that forever.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like if you're not growing, you're dying kind of thing. You'll have to like keep reinventing pieces of the business so that you can keep up. As it's going down, you keep up and going. Like you guys are going to go like this, and you're just going to want the waves to like generally the average of them to stick around there. It'll be hard because you'll go up and down. And so,
well, another piece of that is, I want to bring in a COO. That's another conversation, but.
And then they're going to want to grow it, right? But, or more than likely, probably want to grow it. But I guess the point I wanted to make is that in the beginning you might do all of it, and then you might hire a lead manager just to filter people that are pissed off. Then later you might upgrade that to an inside salesperson who actually starts to qualify and build rapport. And then later you might step out and hire a salesperson. Well, maybe there's not enough for everybody to do. So you fire the qualifier and your salesperson does all of it. Right. And then they get so busy that you want them to close more. So you bring a lead manager back in. Like this can happen in iterations in your business. And
yeah,
sometimes you just get stale. Like you guys probably also sound like you kind of want to like just rework that for the sake of doing it because you don't like it too. Like you don't want to manage.
There's definitely an element. I'll cap off at this, but there's definitely an element to like, hey, things are going good and it's smooth, and like I just kind of want to get in there and like screw something up, right? And that's like I get that, but Casey and I have had this conversation too many times. Like it's just come up too much, and whether we're bad managers or whether we're not managing or whether they're just the wrong butts in that seat, it's just not getting better. And I need to try something different.
Well, the reality is you guys aren't going to change.
Right.
So if you're managing bad now, you're going to get new lead managers and you'll probably manage them poorly again. Like if you're frustrated, this is why like Michael Jordan doesn't coach a team and he's not a very good general manager of a team.
I feel like I'm good at managing the salespeople that I've had. I mean, I've had very few salespeople, meaning I've had the people that have been with me for a long time, and I've had to let go very few. And so I either, gotten lucky on good picks or what, but maybe I am better at managing that position. And so I feel like, I'd rather stick with that and at least give that a try. I mean, worst case scenario, if I have to go back and hire, another couple lead managers, it's kind of been there, done that. And we've got the systems and processes for it. So it wouldn't be like that big of a deal. But when I was talking with Brett about, I know he's got a different business, different size kind of thing, but I feel like I can run a smaller caliber of the same style. Or maybe I'm wrong and I'm just going to get a learning lesson. So we'll see. But I like the scaling it, or the tapering into it is a great point.
Either way you win, because even if you go back to it, at least you'll know better what you didn't know and you'll be more committed to whatever you're doing.
100%.
So I love Tanner's model, and people that don't know, we'll talk about that maybe on a different, because we're over time on this, but it's just the idea of building a prospecting mechanism that your salespeople have to follow to find their own, to generate their own leads. And they kind of eat what they kill, or kill what they eat, or kill whatever, eat what they kill. But but I like it, dude. Hit me up anytime. I hope, again, I know this was kind of also just for me to put some content together for our Facebook group and stuff. But
I appreciate it a lot.
yeah, I'll be interested to see how it goes, and then we'll do a victory lap, you know, in 6 months on here, or we'll do a lesson learned.
I'll definitely keep you posted, and let's circle back in 90, 120 days or so, and we'll see what's going on with it.
Yeah, dude, I'll see you in Miami too. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then.
Yes, definitely, we'll see you there. Looking forward to that. All right, I'm gonna go.
All right, cool. I'm gonna hang on for a minute. You can.
I'm gonna hop out and go pick up some heavy stuff and put it back down again and try and get a little workout in.
I like it. Do a little extra for me. See you, dude. Tell Casey I said
later, guys. Thank y'all.
Peace. Yep. All right, guys. So hopefully today, I know we kind of bounced around a little bit, and I do want to open it up for Q&A if anybody has anything they want to drop in. You know, this here's what's interesting. I want to put this out there for everybody watching this. This is such a common thing to be happening in business, is where you're like, especially when you have a partner, it's a little better because you can vocalize it, and talk about it out loud. Like he said, him and his wife, Casey, have talked about this conversation so many times. Well, it's tough if you're on your own and you're a solopreneur. It's really tough to have this like almost beating yourself up conversation. Like, what if I did this, or what if I don't do that, or should I do this, or these people are frustrating me, or it might be easier just to change all this instead of deal with it. This is just a constant battle that's going on, and there is no set it and forget it when you're building a business, even to the point where you bring on a COO and a CFO and a CEO. You can bring them on. That's the only way to get out of it, is to bring somebody else on to deal with it. It never goes away. In any business that's doing any size of volume and consistency, there's always this battle of, where do I invest my time? Do I invest it more on the front end of something or the back end? It could even be on your product development, or if you're in some kind of, a bigger fulfillment where you've got to step in, and do you want to work harder on the front end and then make the back end easier? Or do you want to get more volume in, work less on the front, get more volume in, and have a bigger closing on the back end? So the same thing happens in sales. The better we qualify and filter on the front end, the easier the sales process is. So if you have sales guys who only focus on closing, you would think they can get more done if they're managed correctly, because you've got another party in front of them qualifying. Now, if you don't have that, you're putting more people through. And so the front end is a lot harder for your salesperson. They start spending more time there, which means they spend less time negotiating and putting offers out. And so it's just a function of time, and it's in every aspect of your business, not just sales. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, Randy said wrong actions are better than no action, or wrong action are better than actions. You learn from every action, no doubt, dude. Hey, Randy, let me see. I'll put you on the spot here. Oh, there you are. Hey, what's up, dude?
What's going on?
Appreciate all your input. Not much, man. I know you. I said appreciate all your input today. I know you do a lot of sales in your businesses. What's your opinion on all this? Filtering, qualifying. You got your sales guys work cold leads, or do you have someone warming them up?
No, the office, the person that takes the calls does all the warming up. But my business is different than what you guys do, because most people, when they call me, most people are calling because they're ready to buy.
So they're kind of warmed up. They're just so do you compete on price a lot then?
To a point. We've been doing it so long now, we're probably 70% of our leads that come in are referrals. So referral leads are always red hot.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good place to be. I mean, even in our.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, what were you gonna say?
Well, like Parker said that he just doesn't like doing it anymore. He's got to figure out what he likes doing and just do it and hire people to do everything else. You know, I don't like sitting in the office and dealing with employees. So I have a general manager that sits in the office and deals with employees.
Yeah, it was clear that they don't want to manage their lead managers.
No, and
which
it's going to be hard for them to ever grow if they don't want to be the person that's going to manage their team.
Yep, but
Sorry,
you know,
I got poor cell reception right now.
Oh, you're good. I was just saying, like I said, with them though, you know, the trade-off is if he tries something new, as long as he has a good method to how he's going to try it, so he doesn't derail the business by making a quick, huge change. He's going to learn. He's going to learn something by trying this, and he's going to be better off as long as he doesn't, you know, self-inflict too bad of a wound right now. Even if he goes back to the same model, he's going to be more committed to it and have learned something. And so I think as business owners, you know, one of the things is we're always trying different things, right? And we've got to learn how to do that without disrupting our current business too much, because we just don't know. We don't know.
He also sounds like he's slightly burned out.
Yeah, I would agree with knowing him personally. I would say, yeah, they're ready to have a COO.
Yeah. Well, and when you get burned out, that's the quickest way to burn your business to the ground. You know, I've gotten to points where I've been burned out, and it's taken me months to get back to where I was because I just drove the boat to the ground because I was so worn out and just so tired of everything. Yep, that's true. You quit pushing and pulling, and you don't use your mojo, and you lose a little here and there. You start losing ground. You don't win the 50-50 balls. Yep, and then you got less profit, less margin to work with. I like the fact that he said he's got a sales guy that wants to bring on an assistant. You know, maybe that sales guy can move into a management position for him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that guy's a keeper if he's willing to do stuff on his own.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100% on that. You know, and you got to be able to see those signs too. You know, when you have employees like that, he might be good at sales, but he also might make a badass general manager, and then you know he can find a new sales guy.
Yep, that's a good point for sure.
We just got to look at the signs, man.
Yep.
Hey, what's the weather like there?
What's that?
What's the weather like?
Right now, 80s, sunny.
It's 101 and hotter than balls.
Well, if I walk out to my car, I'd probably sweat because it's so humid right here too, which is different. But yeah, man, we need to connect. I need to shut this to do that.
I'm losing you there. Have a good one, Steve.
Did I lose you? Yeah, hey, let's connect. Appreciate you jumping on today. Hope this was helpful today. If there's anything we can do for you or you need from us, go to the ceonation.com/links, LINKS, the ceonation.com/links, and you can connect with us different ways there, access the podcast, set up a strategy call with us. I hope this helps. If you've got questions or you want to maybe be one of the case studies, we have your business, something's going on and you want to sit down and talk through us and be one of these upcoming case studies that we do on a Monday, reach out and connect with us. And, any questions you have on setting up your sales team or your sales foundation, either email us back or just go find this post in the Facebook group and make a comment there, and we can keep the conversation going there. It's great seeing everybody. I know we ran a little long today. I think this is a very common issue that I think we'll be referring people back to. Hey, go watch the May 24th episode if you want to talk about the trade-offs between how you build your sales team. So, all right, good seeing everybody. Take care.